I have a weird relationship with anime films in that I have trouble actually starting them. I don't know what it is about the longer runtime which makes me really hesitant to actually put on a movie to watch. I don't have the same issue with series. I will spend 3 hours binge watching a series and not even give it a second thought. It takes a special movie for me to commit to the entire runtime. When I finally do finish an anime film, I usually rave about them. For this week, I managed to watch what I can only describe as an animated Kurosawa film. I absolutely adore the works of Akira Kurosawa, so this is really high praise here. Of course, I'm talking about Sword of the Stranger. It's a typical samurai film, but its strength lies with how well it represents the genre. Not every work has to be groundbreaking or new. A work can be amazing for simply being a great example of the genre. Sword of the Stranger is one of the best samurai films that I have watched. And yes, I am still comparing it to the works of Akira Kurosawa. I'm Banana Owens, and this is an Otaku Youth Anime Review. The story of Sword of the Stranger takes place in Sengoku-era Japan. This is an era characterized by rampant war and political machinations that make Game of Thrones look like child's play. The film opens up with the flight of a young boy named Kotaru as he escapes from a burning temple. Kotaru, along with his dog, is fleeing a group of Chinese mercenaries led by the mysterious blonde swordsman Raru. Kotaru manages to hide out in a rundown temple and encounters Nanashi, or No Name, a wandering swordsman who refuses to draw his blade. Kotaru's pursuers catch up and Nanashi gets involved in the conflict, much to his chagrin. Kotaru strikes a deal with Nanashi and hires the man to act as his bodyguard, and that's the basic setup of the plot of Sword of the Stranger. Of course, there are many more intricacies, but I'd be doing a great disservice by spoiling too much. This type of plot is fairly typical for this genre, or even just film in general. It possesses all the typical tropes: the swordsman with the haunted past, the bickering between the two leads, and the most important, the talented rival. Yes, Sword of the Stranger does offer a typical plot, but it carries out the story perfectly. Characters are also perfectly fleshed out, more on that later. The setting is absolutely interesting. The plot is paced to match the journey of the main characters as well. At times, the pacing does slow down, but the difference in speed serves as an almost countdown for the bursts of action. The speed decrease creates just the right amount of tension as the viewer waits for the next twist of the story. In particular, the cat and mouse game between Nanashi and Raru is the highlight of the movie. Every time that these two are even near each other, the audience is just left on the edge of their seat, just waiting for the proverbial pin to drop. A film's ultimate goal is to evoke a genuine emotional response from the audience. Sword of the Stranger is packed with emotion. The final confrontation alone is an emotional powerhouse of a scene. Every facet of this movie managed to evoke some sort of emotional response from me. Sword of the Stranger features a relatively small cast of characters, but this small cast is given the attention that it deserves. This attention allows each character to develop in a meaningful way. Kotaru starts off as a brat, albeit a resourceful one. He is angry due to his circumstances and is relatively closed off as a result. It's a rarity for such a young character to be developed just as well as the adult characters, but Sword of the Stranger manages to accomplish this. Kotaru is believable as a child that has been thrown into such extreme circumstances. Now, the bulk of his character development comes from his interactions with Nanashi. The two start off relatively cold to one another, just as a simple relationship based on money. Kotaru shows his inner fear because he constantly believes Nanashi will betray him at any moment. Over the course of the story, Kotaru begins to open up with Nanashi, and the two form a relationship that I can only describe as one between brothers. Nanashi is one of the more mysterious characters. He is a ronin, a samurai without a master. It quickly becomes apparent that his tragic past haunts him immensely. He's the rare swordsman who refuses to draw his blade, instead using only the sheath to fight. That does not mean he is any less lethal though. Nanashi represents the Ronin archetype perfectly. He possesses just the right combination of self-loathing and goodness. While initially hesitant to assist Kotaru, he eventually overcomes his trepidation. Much like Kotaru, Nanashi receives quite a lot of his character development from their relationship. Assisting Kotaru acts as a sort of medium that allows Nanashi to directly address his past sins. The final few scenes of the film grant a very satisfying emotional payoff to Nanashi's journey. So a great samurai film needs a worthy rival for the main character. Raru is the perfect answer to Nanashi. Unlike Nanashi, Raru is perfectly content with his status as a swordsman. He will do whatever is asked of him just to get a chance at potentially facing a strong opponent. Raru is not evil per se, but just wants to be challenged. He's actually rather honorable towards those that he deems worthy. As an antagonist, he is absolutely ideal. For one, he is actually competent. Rauru is a very dependable hire based on his skills alone. Throughout the movie, the viewer does not get to know his backstory unlike the other main characters. Rauru remains an enigma, and I realize I've been probably saying his name very awkwardly for this whole little section, but trust me, it won't get better. He is simply a blonde European that works for the Chinese as they carry out a mission in Japan. It sounds a little crazy, but it works. Overall, the main characters of Sword of the Stranger are interesting and are developed quite well throughout the film. Typically, anime films feature gorgeous animation. Sword of the Stranger is not an exception to this rule. Every frame of this film is beautiful. The backgrounds are very well done, the character design is phenomenal. I'm sure any potential viewer has probably heard about the amazing fight scenes that are featured in this movie. There are not too many of them, but they are the highlights of the animation. Look at any one of the fight scenes in this movie and try to tell me that each one is not absolutely gorgeous. From the way the characters move to the excellent choreography, these fight scenes are an absolute treat. Sword of the Stranger also possesses some of the best swordplay that I've ever seen in anime. I really don't have much more to say about the animation other than that it is phenomenal. Any more and I would just be repeating myself. The sound design features the only negative thing I have to say about the film. The sound effects for the dog are low quality. It's almost like listening to a MIDI version of a sound effect. The other sound effects are very well designed. The Foley for the sword battles is especially impressive. That being said, the rest of the sound design is pretty great, with the highlight being the music. First off, the voice acting is very well done for this movie. I really enjoyed the switch between Japanese and Mandarin when it comes to the differences in communication between the Japanese and the Chinese. From a story perspective, it adds immensely to the idea that this Chinese force is truly foreign. It also adds the extra element of silence to Nashi and Rauru's rivalry. Without the benefit of communication, this rivalry is almost entirely expressed through animation, which is a concept that I really give them credit for. Now it's time to talk about the music of Sword of the Stranger. Frankly, it's perfect. The music perfectly fits every scene of the film. It's emotional when it needs to be, at times it can be ominous, or at other times it can be triumphant. The opening scene paints the perfect introduction to the score of this film. It is the best music for a samurai film. In addition to that, the music also features a large amount of stylistic choices. One scene might have a more traditional Japanese flair, while another might use a more Western sounding score. This really comes to a head during one of the final scenes of the movie. The entire film was building up to that moment, and the music echoes this sentiment. It starts off slow, but gains as this confrontation finally happens. It is one of the more emotional pieces that I've ever listened to, especially when combined with the context of the story and the animation. Sword of the Stranger is a film that I would say is almost perfect in every single way. This should be a required viewing by any fan of anime. The story is great and the characters are handled well. The added bonus of the story being Rauru, who's a very interesting antagonist. Being a film, the animation is excellent as expected. The sound design is great as well, combining fantastic performances with an emotional score. Of course, there are some flaws, but the combination of the story, the characters, the animation, and the sound come together and create a complete package. I give Sword of the Stranger my banana-owned seal of approval. It really is amazing in every single way, to the point where I would categorize it as one of my favorite anime films. To put this into perspective, this is a category that is filled with Studio Ghibli, Mamoru Hosoda, and Makoto Shinkai films. That is very high praise from me, and not everything that I watch will receive this level of praise. Thanks for checking out this review. Like always, you can check out a written version at the Otaku Youth blog at Wordpress, and I'll be back next week for a look at some more anime recommendations from the winter season.